Hello and welcome to a special edition of Norwood Digest. I'm Jack McCarthy, your host and moderator, and today we're going to talk about Norwood Hospital, but more specifically, the cardiac rehab unit. I'm joined by Kevin McDonald and Ed Hickey, who are both proud graduates of the Norwood Cardiac Rehab program, as am I. And so we're going to start it off with Dr. Sherman, who's the director of the program, and she'll give us a little heads up about what the program's about, and then we'll come back and talk about that, and we'll just wing it as we go. So, Mike, tell me a little bit about the program's history, and, well, just tell us about that first.
The program has been here over 20 years, and it's evolved quite a bit over the years. It's grown, and it's become an important part of the cardiology department and also of Norwood Hospital.
And one thing I've noticed is there's not that many of these programs around, and why is it important for Norwood Hospital to have this?
Correct. There are not very many programs, and this is one of the only ones in the area. It's important because it helps recovery after heart events, either heart attack or stents or surgery or heart failure. It helps promote people resuming their daily activities, return to work, and just getting back to their lives.
And so, we all three of us went there. So how did you end up there? Let's start with you, Kevin.
Well, I had my surgery in January of 2005. And shortly after the surgery, when I got home, I got a call from Michael C., who was the director of that program at that time. And we talked briefly and hung up, and I thought, no, I'm not going to do that. And he sent me a very nice follow-up letter afterwards. And the next week or so, I started thinking, maybe I should do this. I've always been pretty fit, and this might be a good way to continue being fit. So I decided to do that. You need to get an okay from your surgeon that you were well enough to do that. So with my surgery in mid-January, I think I started the program in March 8th of 2005 under Michael C. and head nurse at that time, Kathy Sweeney.
Okay. How about you, Ed?
Mine chronologically happened on December 8th, 2014, almost exactly 5 years ago. Didn't feel well, had watched a Patriots game. They were out in San Diego. I still remember I had contemplated going there with some of the guys from Norwood that were taking that trip. Good thing I didn't, because I wouldn't be here talking to you today. I had pain in my shoulders, such that I said to my wife, we got to go to the hospital. We went to the hospital. I was having a heart attack as I got there. I was very fortunate that a fellow named Dr. Nicholas Ruwako was in the hospital at 1 o'clock in the morning. He saved my life. My heart stopped 3 different times. They had to get it going. Because of the blockage, he did a angioplasty, and the next morning I felt great. I mean, he saved me. I had very little problems after that. There was 3 conditions that he said the next morning when he came in and talked to me, and I would have done anything for him after what he had done for me. First off, he said, you're going to lose weight, all right, and I'm going to help you if you do the second thing, and that is go to this cardiac rehab. The third thing he said, and I hope McDonald's isn't one of your sponsors, because he said, you're not going to go to McDonald's anymore. His point is you're going to learn how to eat the right way, and you're going to go to this cardiac rehab, and they are going to teach you there.
All right. Let's not spoil the rest of it. So,
yeah. All right.
And so, I was quite similar. I was having issues, and I went to my doc. I had an echogram, about 3 years before. I was complaining. He goes, let's do another echogram. And he said, yeah, your valve's not quite the way it should be. So I went in for a valve job. And the day before I went in, they said, why don't we do a catheterization the night before? And that's when they found a block. And so I had, since they were in there, we could take it all together. So, and how I got to the cardiac rehab, this gentleman right over here had heard about my surgery and called me up. And we hadn't talked in a while,
No.
and he said, I just got one piece of advice for you. go to that cardiac rehab, and it was probably the best advice I got on the whole thing. So
I've given that advice to multiple people.
yeah, well, I followed it, and I'm happy I did. So Mike, let's take a look at Diane, who was both Ed and my nurse.
Cardiac rehab is unfortunately an underutilized program. There is more than enough people to fill a cardiac rehab in every single hospital forever, but a lot of people don't utilize cardiac rehab. It is not a money maker for the hospital, unfortunately, because it requires a lot of staffing and a lot of equipment. So it's more important that those who get here, we take care of those people.
Sure. So in a high level way, and then we'll get into like a day-to-day thing, but in a high level way, describe the program.
So cardiac rehab, everybody thinks of as, oh, I'm just going to go and exercise. And it's not just about exercise. Cardiac rehab is a education program to help decrease the risk for a second event for happening. So that means learning lifestyle changes that hopefully will last for the rest of your life, including exercise, nutrition, stress management, medication management, smoking cessation, any of the risk factors that will contribute to another event. We work on helping you decrease those risks.
All right, so you know, some of the things you were starting to talk about, Eddie, was some of the things she talked about. So now you had Diane.
I did. I had Diane and the other
And Joy.
The other girl, Joy Colby. They were great for me, and they really did. They took you right along. You know, I think we all know that we can do a little bit more exercise and things like that, but there's a mental aspect. I mean, you have a physical problem because your heart is a problem, but what she just said, you got to live your life, and how are we going to stop you, one, worrying, and they give you the confidence after you go there, both for the mental aspect. You know, they do more than just get on the bike, as you saw the bike and things like that. And they're great because they sort of pump you up. They let you know. You get a confidence. And the biggest thing is that after, I don't know if they gave you one, or Kevin, I may not have had it, but they give you a graduation T-shirt. It's about a $5 T-shirt.
Well, Kevin has his certificate too.
I mean, it's great. And
I
to
still have
earn
the
it,
T-shirt.
you earn it because you do some work. They teach you some things. And I went for about 3 months, 3 times a week. I still remember 2015 was a snowy, terrible cold time, and I was going in February, March, and April, I believe. And but I'll tell you, like you guys said, if somebody had an issue, I would tell them. If you go there, it helps you so much. It gives you, physically, you're going to get in better shape, but more importantly, I think, mentally, you're going to feel like you can go back and, live your life, really.
It's almost like he was listening to the phone conversation we had, Kevin.
Yeah, the things she touched on, we did all those, and I found all of them to be very valuable. I'm a physical education major, so I'm aware of exercising, but it was the education about the heart, learning about their heart, learning about what brought this on, learning how they fixed it and changed things that you don't understand. I still use some of the meditation techniques that went along with it, and the nutrition and the dietitian. So it wasn't just C and Kathy Sweeney. They had the dietitian came in. They had someone come in and talk to us and educate us on what just happened to us. And then probably the most important thing were the 8 or 10 other people in the room with me that gave me the feeling. At one point I said, I'm like the only person in the world this is happening to, and you're not.
Right.
You are definitely not. And many, many people survived this, and you can survive this and have a normal life afterwards.
Okay, good. Now, Mike, let's take a look at the next clip.
So they come in, grab their charts, have a seat. We want them to have a nice resting blood pressure before we check their blood pressure, because the rush in here, the drive, the walk, it's a considerable walk from the parking lot to here. So get a nice resting blood pressure. Then we go around, check everyone's blood pressure. If anyone needs to be put on the monitor, we do not monitor every time. We don't want people to feel like, oh my gosh, I can't exercise unless I have a monitor on, right? So we hook everybody up to monitor who needs to be monitored, and then we head into the middle of the gym and we do a group warm-up together to gradually warm up your heart, warm up your muscles, get ready for exercise, and then everybody goes to the equipment in whatever order they want. Now they all have a prescription for exercise that is individualized just for them. And that prescription is based upon their initial stress test that they had prior to coming in. So we do require that everybody has a stress test so that we can make sure that we're exercising you at a safe, effective level for your heart. So follow the exercise prescription while they're in here. Myself or Falguni or Joy or other nurses, we make sure that they're on the equipment correctly, have it set up correctly, and then we're monitoring vitals while they're exercising to make sure.
So did that bring back memories?
Absolutely.
Kevin, just
Well, one of the things I learned was sometimes you can get on a piece of equipment and get really bored with it, but the fact that they moved you around, you're doing aerobic exercise, but you're doing it on 4 different pieces of equipment rather than just one, getting bored with that.
Yeah.
So I thought that was very valuable, and the level of confidence you have when they are monitoring you. Absolutely.
yeah, and it's funny. I didn't think of, the days I had the monitor on. I'm like, good, they're measuring it, but I didn't. I don't know if I would have thought of that, like not have the monitor every day, because then you get dependent upon it, like
Right,
it's a crutch. But I certainly did appreciate, especially at the beginning, that after you're exercising for about 5 minutes, they come right over, check you out, make sure everything's good, and that, to me, that gave me it was a real confidence builder for me. I don't know about Eddie.
Yeah, and one of the things I thought was important is that, probably for insurance purposes or whatever, you can only stay there. I mean, you can't go forever.
Right.
Although there are people, they have an extended thing that have been there for years and years. But they're hoping, and they build up your confidence and also your wind and your ability to do these things, so you can transition to go to a gym or something like that. Because if you go right back after 3 months to them and you go back to what you were doing, you probably are going to have another issue.
Yeah.
And they give you that ability to say, for me it was, to be honest, not to hype anybody, but Vanderbilt Club. I went down to Vanderbilt Club and started, and I should go there more often, but you can get out, you can walk, they tell you just got to be active, and they give you the plan. If if something happens down the line, it's probably because you didn't exactly do what they
Right.
suggested. Yeah.
All right, so Mike, let's see what we got next.
My name is Joy Colby. I'm a nurse clinician in cardiac rehab program here at Norwood Hospital.
So I noticed some of the clients have monitors on. What's the purpose of that, and what do you do with it?
So while here in cardiac rehab, we monitor our patients on telemetry monitors. We're watching for any type of arrhythmias, which are abnormal heartbeats, if your heart rate is too fast or too slow. Everything we do is in collaboration with your own primary care and cardiologist, so we would let them know if we note any changes on your telemetry monitor.
Okay, and how often do you do that?
Depending on the patient's insurance, in their risk stratification, higher risk patients are monitored every week. If you're in the intermediate risk, our patients are monitored every other week.
And so is there a measurement that you do from beginning to end, middle? Do you track progress this way as well?
Yes, so while we have our patients on the monitors, we're taking your blood pressure, we're taking your heart rate, and each care plan is individualized. So based on the specific patient needs, we enter the data into the computer from the start of the program, and every time a patient is on the monitor, we update the piece of equipment that they're on, and at the end we can track their progress and send a progress report in the discharge summary up to the primary care and cardiologist.
So we kind of touched on that already, the monitor, and it's a real confidence builder, I thought. I don't know if you have anything to add to that, because I think the next clip's going to talk about how you make progression. So Mike, why don't we just go right to that next clip from Diane.
Right. A lot of people after having a cardiac event are very nervous. They're scared. I can't do this anymore. I'm a fragile flower. And what we want you to understand is that with correct training, you can be better than you were probably before you had your event. And I think that you expressed that to us, that you feel much stronger and
Absolutely. And so, but you don't start off, it's interesting to watch the progression.
Oh yes, so we start people at very low workloads. We're really closely monitoring heart rates, blood pressures, telemetry on the telemetry monitor to make sure that everybody is safe, everything looks okay. And everybody's exercising within their personal parameters based on the stress test. So heart rates are closely monitored. On your stress test, we don't let you go to the maximum heart rate you got to on the stress test while you're in here. So we're closely monitoring that. And then gradually each week, as I chat with you and go through how it felt to you, how your heart rate responded, how your blood pressure responded, then we gradually increase. And we start at low-level pieces and gradually work up to all the pieces that you'll see in the gym.
And it's not just cardio exercises that you do here.
Correct. So we want to make sure that everybody understands that not just cardio is important for your heart, other exercises as well. So the warm-up is incredibly important to gradually bring your heart rate up, get your muscles ready for exercise. Then we do cardiovascular. Then on a typical Monday or Friday, we head on over to where we started at the beginning of the day, sitting, getting blood pressures, and we'll do a group cool down together. Lots of flexibility training. Flexibility is just as important. That's what's going to help you be independent as you get older. And then we also do resistance training. So we do hand weights and we do ankle weights depending upon the day. And we go through all of the major muscle groups so that you learn how to properly lift weights and how to make sure that you're breathing correctly while lifting the weights. That's very important as well.
So, do you remember what you started on, how slow it was? Or because I remember the first day, I'm like, oh, this is going to be too easy. I'm going to get bored. I'll never last the whole time. I don't know how you guys felt.
I remember they put me on a machine, and all I had to do was just move my arms like this. And it seems so simple, but they have a plan.
Yep.
And if you listen to them and you go along with it, it all sort of comes out in the end. And in the end, now you're ready. Like I said, you're ready to leave them as much as you don't want to. Insurance tells you you can't stay here forever. And now you're ready to go, and you're confident that they're not going to be there holding your hand when I'm at the Vanderbilt Club, for instance. But they are going to be, they're in the back of your mind. And if you listen to what they said, and if you're, the nutritionist comes in, for me, that was my big thing. I ate altogether wrong and stuff. And the funny thing is, they sort of teach you some things. Geez, you think you're doing the right thing, eating. It may not be as good for you as it, and it's a very educational program.
Absolutely. I have always been kind of anal and goal-oriented, and so have the goal, build up to that goal. So I fit in very well with that kind of thing. Plus, I happen to have a treadmill at home, and when I came home from Boston Medical, they had me set up, do a couple of minutes walking a day, this many times a day. So I had already started at a pretty low level and built up and felt, satisfied that I met this goal this week and the next week, and just carried that on through the cardio rehab. And then where Ed went to Vanderbilt, I went right down to the Civic and signed up, and I still go to the Civic. This is 14 years later.
And I'm at Planet Fitness, so we got it covered.
Plenty of places out there.
That's the closest one to my house.
Whatever works for you, absolutely.
And it's funny you say that. Like you kind of take them with you, right? Because when I'm doing the exercises there, I'm hearing the reminders. Like one of the things I would forget to breathe. Like if I was stretching and things, I wouldn't be. I'd like almost hold my breath while I was stretching, and I can hear Diane. Make sure you're breathing when you're stretching, and and things like that.
Oh, when you're lifting some weights, you tend to hold your breath.
Yeah,
too. But they got me. I would check my vitals on a pretty regular basis. Like most people going through this, they got the monitor at home that they could check their blood pressure, and I got home and did that. And I have spreadsheets all over the place with all my numbers in them.
Yeah, you're way more organized than
Oh,
I am.
yeah. To the extreme.
Yeah.
Well, I was going to say something so simple. You rush down there and you're in a hurry, and I'd go up into the gym and I'd go, oh, no, I'm going to jump on the bike. And in the back of my head, Diane's going, no, warm up before
Right.
you do anything.
Yeah.
And you do. And because of that, you don't just jump on the bike. You do the simple warm-up that we all did. And I don't think it's not the hardest thing in the world.
No, but it's
But it's
important.
important. And that's what she taught as much as anything. I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, over the years, and the Civic Center, I'd see a new guy come in, and I'd say, well, he just came out of cardio rehab because he's doing those warm-ups.
Yeah.
Warm-ups.
That's funny.
Right.
So you kind of brushed on it, the nutrition.
Mm-hmm.
And like for me, I'm like you, Eddie. I wasn't as aware of it as I should be. You probably were because you had that background with
A little bit.
yeah.
But like Eddie said, you get in and actually learn from a professional. You go, oh, is that right? I've been eating this and eating that, thinking it's okay, and they're telling you some of the do's and don'ts. And I give my wife a lot of credit with that. She got me on the straight and narrow with that stuff. I like certain things that were bad for me,
Yeah.
bad for my cholesterol, and held me, nose to the grindstone when it comes to that. Over time, with the addition of statins and stuff like that, you might cheat a little bit as long as you keep your numbers within a certain range.
Yeah, I underestimated the hidden salt in everything that we
Yeah.
ate, and I was like, looking at it, I'm like, oh my God, no wonder my blood pressure was up.
Mm-hmm.
I had a lot of salt.
Yeah.
Well, it was funny. I remembered that when like marathoners went out, they ate a ton of carbohydrates, spaghetti the day before the marathon. You go to the nutritionist, and for us three, all those carbohydrates may not be the best thing for you.
Well, because they're burning it off. We're not.
Right, we're not exactly not like they are. No,
Although
we're not running 26
Kevin
miles.
sort of was.
Well, I was. For me, it was funny. There was a time that I enjoyed a beer or two. That had sort of minimized, but I drank a ton of sugary type drinks.
Yeah.
The worst thing, almost the worst thing that you can, put in your body. And 5 years ago, I had my last ginger ale, Coke, Pepsi, or whatever. And I don't know, it makes all the difference in the world, but for me, that, they gave me the idea, think what you put in your mouth.
Yeah.
And the nutritionist, and I wish I could remember her name, because she came in about once a week, the
Yes.
girl,
Yeah.
and she was great. I mean, she'd take, like the other thing, I don't know what we said, it isn't like they're a teacher and they are talking down to you.
Yeah.
It's a conversation,
Yeah, it's
back
not
and forth.
didactic at all. It's-
Not at all. And they encourage you to ask questions. And I mean, we're adults. For me, I was 60 years old when it happened. But they encourage you to ask, pertinent questions. And the old idea, nothing is a stupid question to them. Yeah.
Well, the other thing is, just watching this, I didn't have any of those people 14 years ago, all right? But you can tell they are really into it.
Yeah.
And what makes it so good is the people that they hire that run it. They're excellent.
Yeah, and I feel like very close to those people,
Wow.
And I know you do too, Eddie.
I went back and visited Kathy several times
Yeah.
I do-
over
I do.
several years, yes.
Cardiac rehab technically has to be located inside of a hospital setting. You have to have a doctor on the premises ready to come to a call if an urgent matter happens. Not all hospitals have cardiac rehab programs, as I had mentioned earlier, because it's cost prohibitive. But Norwood Hospital has always felt that it's more important that we get people well than it is to worry about the money for cardiac rehab. So we've been very fortunate to always have people backing us up and keeping us going. There are not many programs geographically around us. So we have people coming from Attleboro, Mansfield, Foxborough, Franklin, all the way down to Stoughton, Randolph, Needham, Dedham. I could Sharon, Canton, they're
Yeah.
all over the place. So we do get quite a variety of folks.
So what about this program do you think people are surprised about?
A lot of people who have exercised in the past and come here are very surprised to find out that they actually learned something because they thought that they knew what they were doing. The other surprise for most people is how much they actually learn about their heart, about exercise, about stress, about all these things that they didn't think of that are contributing to heart disease. So the education piece, we can't stress enough how important that is, and really it puts the whole picture together.
Yeah.
And I think that a lot of people are surprised at how fun it can be instead of just, oh my gosh, I'm going to be doing a ton of exercise and
Well, and
not, you
quite
know.
frankly, the other thing that surprised me and it made it so much better is the camaraderie among patients.
Oh, absolutely. So it's always good to know that you're not the only one. And that's important because a lot of people get that feeling, well, first of all, depression sets in after a major cardiac event, and then you start to go inward and feel like, why did this happen to me? And then once you come here, you see all these people, different ages, females, males. We have people in their 20s all the way up to their 90s exercising in here. And that's what's wonderful about it is you see, you know what, it's not just me. And there are different reasons why everybody's here. And we're all in the same boat. We're all trying to get better.
Is there something about the program that you want people to know that I didn't ask you about?
I think that we have a very well-rounded program. I don't want people to be afraid to come because they think it's going to be such hard exercise. As I mentioned before, I have a 95-year-old person in here right now who's exercising, driving themselves in, still continuing. What's really important is that you make exercise a part of every day, and we can't stress that enough. We've become such an industrialized society that we sit, we order everything online, we do everything behind the computer or on the phone. It's important to get out there and move. And if you do have a cardiac event, this is the best place to be. You're going to learn the most things that are going to keep you out of the hospital a second time.
And that's a lot of what you folks said. She just summed up.
That's right. It was like I watched that before I spoke.
Yeah.
But she did hit the nail on the head on 5 or 6 things that were important to me.
Yeah.
For sure.
I'll tell you just personally a little story. I learned that it's important to get your heart to a certain level, and the more important part is how soon you're going to get back down to where your base level should be. So I'm going to the gym, and I could tell that I wear a Fitbit, and also the machines have that. And exactly 6 months after that, I noticed that my level is taking an awful long time to get there. So I went to my doctor, my primary care doctor. He took a EKG, and he said, "You need another stent." He said, "What you learned is absolutely right. It's not coming down quick enough. You've got another blockage there." And I went to Norwood Hospital that day. Dr. Ruaco came in. It was explanatory.
Kevin had Dr. Ruaco too.
Right. I mean, an interesting guy.
Yes.
And he took care of it, and I was out of the hospital in a couple of days. But that, I'm not saying it definitely saved me, but listening to what that girl said, it put me in a position where I knew that there was something wrong. And I didn't know exactly, so I got to a doctor. But Ruaco took care of that like nothing that day, and now I have a second stent, and I feel very confident, and maybe they saved me again, so.
I think the big thing there is don't be afraid to ask your doctor about something.
Right.
You and I were just talking beforehand. We both experienced the same kind of what we thought was indigestion when doing something physical.
Yeah.
Ask your doctor,
Yeah, and-
avoid the big event.
And part of it, I know I was trying to talk myself out of the
You're
fact
right.
that it
Sure.
was something more serious.
Not
Yeah.
me.
But anyway, there was one. Most of these patients were kind of shy; they didn't want to get on camera, but one of them did, and so I believe it was Stan. So let's hear from Stan, and then we'll come back and finish up. So Stanley, tell me about this program. How did you find out about it? Number one.
I found out about it from my cardiologist. They gave me a list of medical facilities in the region and which one was closer to home. This one here is more convenient. Plus, on top of that, I was treated here originally when I had my chest pains.
Okay. And so, why did you decide to enroll?
I decided to enroll because I was a little vague on what to expect. You know, like I thought, you know, a heart attack and all that, and it wasn't really a heart attack, it was chest pains. But I needed to have an education on what I experienced.
And what did you think it was going to be going in?
I had no idea. You know, I was very delusional. I didn't know what to expect. I'm saying, do I really need this to work out at a gym and things like that? And I was glad I enrolled and came because they were very good here. You exercise at your own pace. You're not rushed. And the education program taught me a big lesson here also. Okay.
And what was the biggest surprise?
The biggest surprise was making progress. You know, I come in here, I was very weak, and it was, you know, in a couple weeks I gained a lot of strength. You know, like I said, they're very good here. They don't rush you. You go at your own pace, and you progress by like every other week or something like that.
And where are you in the program? Do you know what session you're at?
I got, I think I'm at like 33, 34.
So
I got
you're
2 more to
almost
go.
done,
Yeah, I'll be graduating a week from Friday.
Okay.
Right.
And your, how do we do it? Pretend we're doing a survey. Your level of satisfaction between 1 to 10.
It has to be a 10, definitely a 10.
And so you would highly recommend this?
I'd highly recommend this program to anyone. Actually, for the area, I think it's a very good program. I think they have a program here as good as you get in Boston.
And besides the, you know, you're feeling stronger, what else have you gotten out of it?
Say that again?
What else have you gotten out of the program besides, you know, increased strength and?
Like I said, I think the best thing I got out of the program was the education. Okay, in the hospital, when they're explaining to you what was wrong with you and your meds and all that, they say it in medical terms. Here, they break it down in layman terms, and that's very good. So when we do the education, like we just got out of the movie film right now, and it breaks it right down in layman terms, exactly what you experience, what the future lies ahead for you, how do you take care of yourself. That's the most important thing for me, is taking care of yourself, how you eat, what you eat, and the number one thing, like you know, what they tell you all the time, exercise, exercise.
Yeah.
So that's the key.
Okay.
I'm
Well,
very satisfied.
thanks for being with us, and I'm glad I met you.
Thank you, Jack.
And
pleasure meeting you too.
Happy graduation in 2 sessions.
Thank you, sir.
All right, thanks. I mean, felt like a graduation, right? You got your certificate that Kevin showed us,
Right.
and you got your T-shirt. Do you remember what it said on the T-shirt? I don't know if it said the same thing, but mine on the T-shirt said it's "The beat goes on," which I thought was kind of cool.
Probably I have those things.
I don't know if mine said that. I still have it in the
Yeah.
closet.
I wear it down the gym all the time.
Oh, you
know.
do?
Yeah. So, you know, closing thoughts, and then we'll talk about a little speech that you gave. But closing thoughts on the program, recommendation to anybody, advice, anything.
Well, it's certainly an excellent program. I recommend it to anybody who has a stent, bypassed artery surgery, open heart surgery, and to build back some confidence and try to get back a quality of life that you can be happy with and comfortable with.
And how many years ago were you?
14, well, I was 05, so 14 years.
So, you know,
Yeah,
it works.
it has.
And you've had it several years.
5 years within the next few weeks, and I think Kevin hit it right on the head. You can go home, you can sit in a chair and wait until you have your next heart attack, or you can have a quality of life that, you know, I mean, for me, and I think for most people, you know, the idea that your kids get older, you get grandchildren, you hope in the future, do you want to, you want to see them, you want to be there for them. Number two, it'd be nice if you weren't, you know, sitting in and you couldn't get out of your recliner even. It'd be nice to go out and toss a ball with your grandson or something like that. And I think, you know, only the guy upstairs is going to be able to tell you if that's going to happen. And something could happen on the way home tonight. But I feel a lot more confident, a lot more confident after going with Joy and with Diane. They were great, yeah.
So, Eddie, I was, well, let me just say, Friends of St. Nick, I don't know, 3 years?
5 years ago.
Was that 5 years
No,
ago?
4, 2015.
All right, so you were the man of the year. Actually, I won the Kibbe Cullen
Well,
Award.
exactly. That was the first and only time that they got the thing mixed up. That the person that should have been there as the man of the year ended up getting the Kibbe Guide. Somehow they messed up.
I don't
that year.
think
Thornton
think
and
that's true.
Lanzoni and those guys messed up.
Is that why they
And
fired them and turned it
I
over
think
to a new
so.
board?
Once they figured out that you should have been up there on the dais. But yeah, that was in December of 2015, almost a year to the day.
Yeah, and so so you invited 2 special guests to that.
I did. I actually invited 3. I would have loved
Oh.
to have seen Ruaco there. He was next door, probably saving somebody else. But and I'll tell you why I did. I mean,
Well, tell us who you invited first. We know
I
it, but they
invited
don't.
Joy and Diane, the 2 girls that were so important to me. And in that year, still remember that before I went down there to the event, I went out and I took and I'll tell you, I took a 40-minute walk. And I knew that because when I left my house, I started my speech that I was ready to give. And when I got home, I was just finishing. And I said, if I spend 40 minutes talking, that somebody's going to shoot me. I won't have to worry about my heart. So anyway, I invited them too, and I invited Dr. Ruaco. Dr. Ruaco couldn't make it, but they did because, to me, St. Nick's is a great thing. But there's only a certain amount of people in all the folks who have gotten that Man of the Year. They've helped, I think, in some way, or their organization has helped within the town of Norwood. But who are the people that can really, really affect your life? And I thought it sort of segued into the fact that the people at Dana-Farber affect not only your life, but the others. The people in your families and friends and stuff. And these 2 girls, they affect your life. I mean, I was there maybe for the Gridiron, the Diamond Club, and other things like that. But these girls, they put Humpty Dumpty Hickey back together again. They did. And 5 years later, I feel good. I'm confident, and I can't thank them enough. And I was so glad that they were able to be there. I don't know if they're the type of kids. I look at them as kids because they're younger, but there's no pretension with them. They're down to earth. They don't think they're doing anything special.
Right.
They're helping people go on with their lives. And
Right.
like you said, Kevin, to help your quality of life.
Yeah.
That's why I asked them, and I was so happy that they were there. Yeah.
That's nice.
Well, I think we found a snippet of that speech. And before we go to that, we were talking about, I was talking to them about people who might want to do this show with me. And they brought your name up, and they said, he invited us to, like, they were tickled pink to think that you invited them to that. And that just shows you.
Could do. At least I could do,
Yeah.
I mean, right, I mean, they were way more important in my life, and what they've done, so. And I think that it's that way, and not just for them, but Kevin, the folks that helped you. I mean, they're all important, and it sort of takes a special person
Absolutely.
to do that.
So let's just take a snippet of that, and we'll come back and wrap up.
I'm going to close by saying that all the things that we do here are important. In our own way, we try to make Norwood a better place, and I think that's everybody that's here that is here today. They've done that by supporting the Friends of St. Nick. Some things are more important than others, though. And about a year ago, I had a situation, a medical situation, that really brought to me the idea of what's really important. A guy named Nicholas Ruaco, he's probably not here today. I know he isn't here. But see, he saves people. I'm not here boring you for the last half hour if Nick Ruaco's not at Norwood Hospital December 8th of last year. He saved my life. And that's really important. I mean, maybe the Friends should look at somebody like that really, to segue into that, what's important here today is Brenda and Terry and what they do and what their people do at Dana-Farber. After he saved me, they had to put Humpty Dumpty Hickey back together again. All right, physically, emotionally. I got 2 people here today that I spent 36 sessions with that did a great job. I got to thank them publicly. I want to tell you, these are the people that help you in a mental state, a physical state. But I gotta acknowledge Diane Gogren and Joy Colby over here. All right, they work at the Norwood Cardiac Rehab. That's it. The party's ready to begin, I think. All right, I've talked long enough. You got some raffles and things like this. I'm humbled by this. I can't thank the board enough. I don't want to go through every one because I'm going to forget somebody's name. I think it's great that what they've done. I think the biggest thing that this board understands is that you gotta, for Demps and Huffa and Dave Thornton, Lenny Sansone, they got to move along. And what they've done is they've been able to keep the enthusiasm and the energy because of Gurley and Mahoney, crazy Mahoney. I mean, he's a little off, but he's a great guy. All right, now you got the Sweeneys and all the other young kids, all right? They bring Walsh in to raise money. You got to have that, all right? So my message, get involved. It's the best thing that you can happen and what make Norwood great, all right? Thanks, folks.
Well, thank you guys for being with us.
you.
I mean,
thanks
this
for the
to me,
invite.
this was while I was going through the program, I kept thinking to myself, nobody knows about this, you know, unless you've gone through it.
You're right.
And so I said, we got to tell people about it. And so I was thinking about it for every day I would go there, I would think about it. And I finally approached them about doing it, and they thought it was a good idea. And you know, I was always had you in mind because you were the one who called me to come do it, which I'll be forever grateful. And they reminded me that you were one of their patients, and so thank you for being here. I think hopefully we've you know we've spoken to somebody who needs it and will go it and be.
Hopefully, yes.
You know, you hope that we don't ever know anybody that unfortunately gets that. But the reality is,
We will.
we will.
Yeah.
We absolutely will, and hopefully they'll listen to what, like you said, you were good enough to get Jack involved. If anybody ever came to me, I would highly recommend it.
And right now, if you hear someone that has an event and has surgery, call them.
Yeah.
They love that call.
Yeah. Yes, they do. Yes, they do. I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
All right.
Absolutely.
Well, thanks again. And
Thank you, Jack.
we're going to wrap this up. Thank you to my great guests here. Thank you to the folks, you know, Diane, Joy, Dr. Sherman, and everybody down at Norwood Hospital. They were great about this. And thank you for at home for allowing us into your living rooms. Good night and keep safe.